before I became a teacher, I was just like, oh, why would anyone want to do that? They, to be honest, I didn't know how long hours they worked, but I just always knew that they weren't making any money. But then, sort of when I got into it, I was like, wow, like it's actually such an amazing profession to be in. It's so rewarding. It's so weird, yeah. It's ironic, but the racism that we faced running those events is the reason I stopped doing them.
Oh, wow.
So we were going there to discuss like things that were issues for people in the Black community, and it ended up that was the reason why we ended up having to stop them. So there was a whole group of people going to our house. Michaela, you can't stay with us. I was like, why? And she was like, oh, well, you're Black. And these boys used to torment me, like torment me every day because I had cane rows. Kids have really realised how much they appreciate school and they appreciate their teachers, and parents realise it's not easy.
Taking care of this bloody kids. Hey guys, welcome to series 2 of W Talk. Today's guest, due to demand from my audience, they wanted more females. I genuinely don't know any aspiring or young talented women in my sphere. I came across Michaela as we've been following each other on Instagram. God knows how, we have a few mutual friends. And I noticed that you have something called the Prosperity Project, which we'll dive into. So since I don't know you, let's take it back to kind of your youth. Like, what were kind of your aspirations when you were growing up? Did you always want to be in education? Did you always want to be a teacher? Kind of, what was it all like?
So, yeah, that is just not the case. I get this quite often from my students. They always ask me like, so how did you become a teacher? Like, did you want to be a teacher? And I'm just like, no, like that was not on my agenda. Never wanted to do it. I used to think like, teachers were so underpaid.
What did you want to do?
I wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay. Is that through like friends or family?
Family, like I had so many family members that are lawyers. Like I'm Nigerian, so that's like
education is key as well.
Like it's a stereotype. Like you're either going to be a doctor or you're going to be a lawyer. And so I thought I wanted to go down the law route. But actually, interestingly, when I was doing a like internship kind of
placement,
basically placement. I did some volunteering, so I was reading to children in primary school, and actually I really loved it because it was like every week you would just like hear them improving, and like they just get to know you.
And how old were you at this point when you were doing this?
So I was like 19. Okay. This is just before I went to uni, and then do you know?
And were you planning on doing law at uni?
I was planning on doing philosophy. Okay. Always loved that, and. Yeah, so I just sort of wanted to do an internship to see what that was going to be like what would working in law actually be like. And so while I was there, I just enjoyed being around the kids, and I was just like, this is interesting, but still didn't think I wanted to be a teacher. And then when I was doing my degree, I was in contact with these people called Rare Recruitment. Okay. They're quite common for like young Black people trying to get into like the corporate world. Okay. But they do like an assessment of you. Cool. Yeah. So Rare, and there's another one called SEO.
So does Rare just focus on mainly Black young people trying to get
into like.
What does Rare stand for? Do you know? Does it stand for anything?
No idea.
Okay, cool. Carry on. Sorry.
But like, so they usually get people who are like wanting to get into that sort of corporate world. Anyway, I had a mentor with them. You always have a mentor with them, and my mentor essentially said to me, he did like a character profile of me, and we're going through like, what's important to me as a job and that kind of thing. And then he was like, Michaela, like you make a really good teacher. And I was like, what? Like, why would I want to be a teacher? And then anyway, time passed. I ended up working with Teach First. So I went through their leadership development program. And yeah, that's how I ended up as a teacher.
So how many years has it been now since you've been?
So this is my 4th year.
And you've always been teaching in primary schools?
Yeah, stayed in primary. I was a year 4 teacher, now I'm a year 6 teacher. And
what's that been like, looking back on it now and your perceptions of being a teacher before? Because I remember one time in my secondary school, someone said, Cam, you should be a teacher. I was like, dead that, man. I'm not being a teacher. Like, these guys made like 34 grand a year. Like,
literally.
I was like, yeah, I'm not that. I don't love kids. I love kids, but I don't love the whole teaching aspect that much. I only get paid that much. Yeah. I mean, who knows? I could eventually.
Do you know what? Like, I feel the same. I feel like before I became a teacher, I was just like, why would anyone want to do that? They, to be honest, I didn't know how long hours they worked, but I just always knew that they weren't making any money. But then, sort of when I got into it, I was like, wow, like it's actually such an amazing profession to be in. It's so rewarding. Every day of my like school experience, I come out and I'm just like, wow.
You're
like,
seeing someone evolve and grow up and educate.
Yeah, and like, you know, when you see that, like, what's it called, light bulb moment in their minds, like it's beautiful. It really is. But yeah, you're very overworked. Like you work ridiculous hours, and then as well with me, like trying to have a full-time job and do this business, it has been very interesting. But that's why this year I'm working part-time. Okay. So I've got 1 day off a week where I basically just do.
So part-time only 1 day off. So you still can work the whole 4 days.
Yep.
It's only part-time, like kind of furlough, but it's not really part-time.
It's not part-time at all. And as well, when you think about the fact that I'm still working on weekends for school, it's like technically I'm like basically full-time with another job.
So teaching for 4 or 5 years now, and then now what kind of got you onto this is the Prosperity Project. So if you don't mind explaining to the viewers there what the Prosperity Project is.
Yeah, so proud of it. It's my little baby.
We can actually go. You can actually start from where the whole idea came from, because obviously I read about it, racism that you faced as a child, and then the George Floyd incident, which really kind of knocked it over for you. So
literally to strip it back, when I was in uni, I was studying philosophy, and I was particularly interested in like the experiences of minorities. So I went to the States for a while, and I was like learning about like the native Indians there, and like the discrimination they face, and then obviously learning about black people in the UK, learning about like, you know, misogyny, all of this sorts of things. I was really, really interested in that when I was doing my degree, and I wanted to continue that even when I graduated. So I started this sort of discussion group, which was called the Black Thought Experiment. And what it was supposed to be, it was supposed to be like a 3-thing approach of me with sort of like the philosophical discussions, my friend, which is going to do much more like creative events and that sort of thing, which was basically a discussion group. And so people would just come and we would talk about specific things. So sometimes I gave papers which were very controversial, and they would read them, we'd talk about it, we'd discuss it. And
so did this whole idea start by yourself, or you started it with a few other people yourself?
No, so I started it myself. Okay. So that was like my approach. Okay. Yeah, so that was like my approach to it. Whereas like my friend was also making music, and he would sort of reference the Black Thought Experiment as part of that music. So it was supposed to be a sort of like a multifaceted approach, but it never really worked out like that. Because my events essentially took over the whole thing, and yeah, they were really successful. And then, but actually it's so weird, yeah, it's ironic, but the racism that we faced running those events is the reason I stopped doing them.
Oh, wow.
So we were going there to discuss like things that were issues for people in the Black community, and it ended up, that was the reason why we ended up having to stop them. So it's crazy. Basically, we had a venue in central London, and you know what it's like there. What they started doing was so there was like 2 entrances to this building, and we sort of like were going up the back entrance because that was like where the stairs were, and it was like an upstairs event. Whereas like there was a bar and stuff downstairs, and what they kept doing was any black person that came into their like building, they would just send them straight upstairs. So they were just assuming that they were part of it, when actually they would come upstairs and be so confused. They'd be like, why am I here? And I would be like, I don't know.
What venue was this? You don't have to do.
Yeah. No, I can at them, like I don't even care. It's, what's it called? The jewelry, the jewel or something in Piccadilly Circus.
No, I can't say that.
The jewel, or something jewel. Anyway, it's next to Boots. So
so literally in the middle of
in right bang smack in Piccadilly Circus, on the left of Boots is there. So yeah, don't give them your money.
In there? Good, that's why I want you to out them. Can't have them. So yeah.
So basically I started that platform, and it was really good because people wanted to talk about this stuff and share their experiences and things like that. And then so I sort of went quiet for a while, and that was when I was in my first like couple years of teaching as well. Like I was just getting used to having a full-time job because it was mad. And then obviously recently everything was happening with the George Floyd incident. Like I could see that companies wanted to be held accountable and wanted to make change, but didn't really know how. And so they were sort of they were asking influencers, or they were outsourcing.
Even asking employees sometimes, even black employees, they might ask.
Exactly, and setting up like BAME networks or whatever. But the thing that I didn't see is I didn't see any responses from schools, and that was really shocking to me, because I was really thinking, you've got a whole generation of students here.
And racism essentially comes from a lack of education. Despite what people think about it, it's just a lack of education.
Bottom line, that is what it comes down to. And I was just thinking, you guys are best placed to do something about these issues, but you're just not going to do anything. And then from speaking to a couple of people who I know who are head teachers,
did anyone ever approach you during school?
Yeah, so they approached me in school to tell me that, because I'm literally one of the only black staff in my school.
Male or female, literally just on one?
Yeah,
okay.
Literally. In fact, yeah, it's only me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh my god.
You only realise that now.
It's actually only me. The rest of the staff is predominantly white, and then there's a couple Asian staff. But the head teacher I'm really close with, and she wanted to do something about it. She wanted to talk about Black Lives Matter. So she rang me and she was just like, how should we go about this or whatever. And I said, I'd be more than happy to do something, to put something together for you. But at the same time, I know that not everyone would be comfortable in that situation. So then it just got me thinking about how many other schools are there out there that want to do something about it, but don't know how, and want to talk about it, but maybe some of their staff are reluctant or whatever. So I sort of put the feelers out to see, what people were saying about it, but also seeing from my black teacher friends, has your school done anything about it? Have they approached you? And most of the time they were saying that yeah, they have been approached, but they just didn't want to be the spokesperson. So what I saw was that what was missing was someone in the middle, someone to come in and be that third party to help schools talk about these issues and address them, and that's essentially.
And did you not see any other platforms similar to what you were trying to do, or even before all of this happened, nothing came to mind?
No. So it's crazy, obviously I've done research out there to see what sorts of things, but the thing that really makes us different is we work with staff. So I fully believe, right, that kids are not the problem, that it's actually adults. We project our
they're like a sponge. Whatever you say, you can see. The thing is with kids, they follow what you do, they don't listen to what you say. So a parent or a mom or a dad can tell their kid to eat vegetables, but if they're sitting there eating donuts, they're going to follow the donuts. That's a very simple kind of example.
So you can just say, you have to be fair, you have to be just, or whatever, but if the kids are not seeing you treat them fairly, they're not going to listen to you. And, I just felt why am I going to go in and give a workshop to kids about racism when the people who have those beliefs, the anti-black beliefs,
they should be here instead.
They're the ones that need to be targeted. And so all these workshops were kid-centered, and I was just that's not what I want to do. I really want to be talking to the adults. And so yeah, there was nothing really out there. I mean, there's projects like the Black Curriculum, who they're looking to sort of make government change in terms of trying to get the syllabus or the curriculum to be more diverse. And I commend them for that, because that's a really important part of this whole thing. But I do see it as a multi-faceted attack that has to be done, really. Course. And yeah, so that's just one part of it. So no, there was nothing really out there that did what we do. So interesting. And that's why schools are now, when they're hearing of us, they're like, oh my god, this is what we need.
No, that's exactly right. That's good. So are you kind of are you approaching different schools at the moment? Do you approach, what's your method of getting your...
Yeah, so we haven't approached anyone.
Before you get there, let me check what you guys are doing.
So no, we don't approach them at all. We're going to, but because I literally started this in June, it was very much a, let's see who's interested in this.
Let's see how it goes.
Right. And then I got some schools on board who they very much knew that they were going to be part of a pilot. So it was going to be first phase, just to try it out, see what happens. And so that has pretty much done now. We've got our case studies, we've got our information, our feedback and stuff like that. And now we're approaching schools on a paid basis. So schools are pretty much coming to us saying, oh, we saw the work that you did in X school, we would like you to come and replicate it with us.
And has it been mainly primary schools that are responding?
It's been both. Primary, secondary, infant schools.
Universities?
Not yet. that's my next big feat.
So I actually know someone that came on an episode of this. I think he came on to episode 3. He's got a app that he helps facilitate student accommodation for universities. So that's maybe someone that can help put you in touch with, because he works with universities. He's just had University of London. They actually use his app now to help accommodation for students. So,
oh wow.
So from university, we'll see. I won't promise anything, but definitely see. I mean that's something that you can cross into.
Absolutely.
So going on, you were saying primary school.
So it's literally. But you know what? Most schools I'm getting are faith schools.
Oh wow.
I'm getting mostly like Catholic schools and Church of England schools approaching me currently, and I don't know whether that's because they're a little bit more attuned to listening to their community. That's usually quite common practice with faith schools, is they have a distinct link to their community, and so they're telling me that parents have asked for this or teachers have been calling for this and we don't know what to do, whereas your standard public school might not have those same conversations. But yeah, so it's just been really interesting. Now it's really taken off, and I just can't wait to take over the world.
Yeah, it's only been a few months. No, that's good. It's only been a few months as well. So it's still in the kind of infant stages of learning about it, learning more about yourself and how running a business.
And long term, I don't want it to just be schools.
Everyone, exactly. That's the good thing about the approach of exactly. Where you're focusing on education and schools, and then it can spiral out to everywhere. It can be all corporate companies.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, let's go to racism which you faced as a young female. Because as I was reading it, you were saying in primary school, and people not wanting you to sleep over their house because you're black, like pretty direct. I mean, what did that feel like at the time? How did you deal with it? Because you're obviously so young. Some kids might have just let it go over their heads. Did you go to your parents? How did your parents help educate you? Maybe this could be a good message to any kind of young black females out there of how they're gonna. There's still a lot of racism out there. George Floyd happening, Black Lives happening. There's probably even more racism now. If anything, it hasn't. I don't really think it's stopping anything.
Absolutely.
What would you kind of?
So gosh, to put the whole thing in context, I went to school in a very white area.
Okay.
We were one of the only black families in the whole town. And
was it in London, outside of London?
No, outside of London, in a place called Maidenhead. And
not far from Windsor then.
Not far from Windsor. So basically, I sort of was in that school, and there was I could count on one hand how many black students there were.
Even non-white, even just anything Asian?
Yeah.
So okay.
Literally could count on one hand. And it was just interesting because when you're a child, you don't know that people are seeing you in a certain type of way. So I just won't forget it, because I remember being in year 3 distinctly, because I remember the classroom, and I remember this girl saying that, Michaela, you can't stay over at my house. It was her birthday was coming up or something, and she was like, Michaela, you can't stay over at my house.
Oh, were you friends with this girl before?
Yeah,
good friends.
Very good friends. I would even go around to her house sometimes, right? But it was just I couldn't stay over, and there was a whole group of people going to her house. Michaela, you can't stay over. I was like, why? And she was like, oh, well, you're black.
Oh.
And I was just
so direct.
And as well, as a 7-year-old, what does that mean?
You don't even know what that means. Clearly she just got this from the parents. Tell her that.
Right, so that's why I was just like, huh? Anyway, I didn't say anything about it.
Do you remember being angry at that age? Do you remember being upset or just being young and
feeling, why am I being excluded? I just didn't get it. I was like, have I done something to you? I just didn't understand. And it was from that point where we stopped talking, stopped sort of being friends, because I just started feeling what do you what you feel this way about me, but I don't even understand it. And then it would just be little things I had a hairdresser, not a hairdresser, oh my gosh, someone who looks after you after school, like a nanny.
Okay, cool.
So she used to pick me up because my parents used to work.
Hairdresser. Oh, did you get that mixed up?
I don't know where I got that from.
I was like, what other words are there for hairdresser?
It's a long day,
nanny. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, this is pretty,
Yeah, so basically, I had a nanny. She picked me up after school, and she had 2 little boys. And she said, she used to just sort of go about her business and just leave us to it to play or whatever. And these boys used to torment me, torment me every day because I had cane rows. So because I had
white
black,
boys, I'm guessing.
Yeah, white young boys. One of them was around my age, and the other one was a little bit older. And literally, they used to make up rhymes about it. They used to lock me in the room and literally the woman would be like, "Where's Michaela?" And I used to tell my mom, like, these people are being horrible to me, and she was just like, "No, like, it'll be fine, like, get over it, whatever." And it was only when the final day happened when they actually locked me in the room, and when the mum was like, obviously she had to tell my mum that I'd been locked in a room.
How did your mum react?
My mum was like, "What?" And so obviously she was like, "I'm so sorry I didn't listen to you, like I should have listened to you, whatever." And so basically just sort of like, that was, all these different experiences were accumulating through my childhood. And I remember getting to maybe like year 5 or year 6 and starting to really realise, like, wow, these people really don't mess with me just because I'm black. Like, I didn't understand. I was like, you know, I performed well in school, I was very well behaved. Like, to me, it was like, why? Yeah, I was just like, I just don't understand it. And so it's really hard for me, because when people talk about their primary experience, and people always say, "Oh, like I loved my experience at primary school," I was just like, never felt that. Don't know what that emotion is. And it was just difficult because there was no one in my school who could talk to me about it. My parents, I don't.
Did you have any black teachers?
Nope. And I didn't even have teachers where I would have felt like if I said something to them,
they would actually let us.
Yeah. It was, and it's crazy because I had some pretty nice teachers. Don't get me wrong. I had teachers where I would tell them about, like, you know, my family situation or whatever else. But this issue, it was just like, I know that this is probably something I just have to just take. And it was only really like, you know, when I was in secondary school and could start to talk about these.
What kind of secondary school did you go to? Did you stay in
the
area?
School. I stayed in the same school.
Oh wow, so predominantly white again.
Yep. Nothing changed.
Not any
there was one other black girl that joined in my year group, and I'm still very close friends with her to this day. But yeah, it was the same situation. Like we really went through it.
And did it get worse in secondary school?
Absolutely.
It probably would, yeah.
Because then it became a behaviour thing. So
if you do something,
it would just always be, you guys are ganging up on people, and it was just that language. It was like, you're behaving like a gang, when there was like 3 of us that just used to walk around and do everything like everyone else. And you know, they would send us home for having braids, or like, I'll never forget, my friend had like light brown put in her braids, and you know, that's pretty standard. The other girls in this class, they're dyeing their hair purple, blue,
shaving half of it off,
coming in with all different types of hairstyles, but we're getting sent home. Like, I just, it was really difficult. And you know,
and who did you have to vent to? Like you said, your mom. Like I've seen pictures of your dad's white.
Yeah, my dad's white.
And how's he kind of try to deal with it? Because there's only so much he can know because he's white, and obviously sometimes a white person can feel guilty. Like, oh, we're not black, so what can I do as a father? Like,
well, luckily for me, like my parents are still together, and my mum's black, and I think when they were sort of getting together, they had quite a few conversations about.
He probably went through a lot of stick then back in the day, because racism was crazy.
Exactly.
So for him deciding to marry a black woman,
that was already a thing. Like, it was political.
Yeah.
And you know, when they decided to have children as well, it was like,
oh
gosh,
do
you get what I mean? So it's like, he's not sort of closed his eyes to it, but at the same time, he doesn't sometimes recognize the nuance. So sometimes it's not in your face, someone telling me, I hate you because you're black, right? Often it's not like that. Often
that's
it's
a dangerous thing. It's a lot of subconscious kind of action.
It is. It's just those little things, and you know, I would come back angry from school sometimes, and my dad would be like, "What's wrong with you?" Like,
it's not that deep, relax, man. Like.
Or you know, my brother, who's growing up in the same neighborhood as where I grew up, he, especially because he's a boy, he's getting pulled over. Like, his friends are getting stopped by the police, but the only person that they search is my brother, and you know, they're just assuming, oh, it was you when things happen, and it's just like,
I think it's a generational lack of education and just how black people are perceived, or how Asian people are perceived. Like, if you see like a black guy running down the road, 9 times out of 10, if you're in a white neighborhood, they think that guy's robbed something. But if it's a white guy, he's probably going to save someone. Do you know what I mean? That's just how it is, and that's just how their brains
are. Or just going for a daily job.
Exactly. Whereas a black guy, they're like, oh no, where's he running from? I want to call the police. So I just think it's a generational lack of education.
It is. And it is, as you say, it's all those little things that really like add up, and I just want, my whole aim with this project is, just as a teacher, you just need to be aware that there are students in your school who are experiencing the same things as what I experienced. And if you can just be that person to say, this is not okay, and to just stand up for them, you're going to impact their life like forever. Like, because really and truly, like, you know, I can laugh about it or whatever, but these things are traumatic, and you carry them until you're an adult.
No, of course.
It's only when you're an adult that you can really process it and start to
deep it all, and like, yeah,
exactly, and to heal from it, really. And you know, maybe this is just part of my healing process. Literally, all of that. Like, it's so funny you talk about hair, because I talk about this with schools as like, hair is political.
Yeah, it is.
Stop. Like, black women.
Have you seen the L'Oreal advert or the what other head? Not Head and Shoulders. There's another one where they're talking about the curly hair. They're like, oh, dull, fuzzy hair, and then they got like a nice straight hair. Oh, vibrant,
shiny.
And then that's a dull, like.
Like what? Like that's what I'm saying. It's just little things like that. And I was in the same situation as your sister. Like, I relaxed my hair. That was what we thought we had to do, and you know, spent years regretting it after.
You grew up and you realized,
and now it's all gone. So.
And you probably feel more comfortable at one with yourself.
More confident, everything, because you know, yeah, people don't want to touch my hair anymore, which is
before like, you're like, yeah, well, let me tell you. Oh wow, this is interesting.
Oh, it makes me sick.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like,
yeah, it's all those little things that people experience and you don't even realize, and like, I guess I just want to try and do something about it if I can.
Which you've started. Do you know what I mean? At least you decided to start doing something with your time. I mean, so education now, like educating young kids. What have you learned the most about actually educating someone? How does it work? Like, if you can educate a kid, which is a very basic human, you can apply that kind of education process to adults. So what have you learned the most about, like, how to educate someone? Like, what's the most exciting way or the simple way for someone to understand?
I think there's a couple things here. To educate a child, first of all, they need to know that you believe in them. If they don't think you believe in them, you're not going to have any success whatsoever. And it seems like such a small thing, but actually it probably has the biggest impact. The children who I've had the greatest impact on are the ones who I've literally been day after day affirming them. You're going to get this, don't worry. Believing in them because they don't naturally do that themselves, or maybe people at home or friends or whatever have made fun of them. So one thing is, like, you just have to, they need to know that you believe in them. And also having just a clear direction, a clear vision, and being vulnerable. People think that you shouldn't be vulnerable in front of children, but that is how they will respect you. If you say, do you know what? Yeah, this math lesson, it went terribly. I'm so sorry. I was supposed to do X, Y, Z. Or, you know, I'm sorry that I lost my temper and that I shouted at you. Or, you know, just showing that you're human, and you have vulnerabilities and you make mistakes. That allows them to feel safe in your company and to be able to make mistakes in front of you. And making mistakes is how you learn. So that's pretty much what I'd say about that.
Interesting.
You have to be inspiring. Like, everyone remembers those boring teachers.
And you also remember the good teachers. I only remember like 2 teachers I really liked. And you remember teachers for a lifetime. Like, because you spend more time, these kids are spending more time with you than they do with their family.
Yeah.
So parents should appreciate a teacher like you as well. Someone that's like, I don't think we appreciate teachers enough because they actually craft the child, more or less, a lot of the time.
Basically. And you know, I think actually Corona has helped some parents to see that.
So what's school been like for you as a teacher because of lockdown? So lockdown probably got peak in April. Schools were shut. It was a few months before summer. When does summer really start? Is it May?
It starts in July.
So you had loads of months off without going into this?
So we weren't working at school, but we were still working. So we had online lessons.
With the students?
With the students.
Okay.
They were all given like accounts and they had to basically just log on and do lessons. And also as well, we were all on like a rota of when to go in because the actual school wasn't shut. The school was open for key worker children. So people who worked in like the NHS, they would need childcare.
Okay.
So some teachers, you'd be on a rota of when you would go in. So we were very much still working. And then especially like when it sort of became like June, July, there was lots of like development that the school wanted to do for the next academic year. So we started to come into school a lot more, like I was in every day. And
so what was it like teaching kids over a computer? Like, it must have been pretty... You didn't get any training on it, it just happened, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
literally. Do you know what? Oh, it's so funny. They're so cute. But it was tough, is what I would say. It was tough because you could see that sometimes they really wanted to try, but they just couldn't concentrate, they couldn't engage. I mean, it was a difficult time to be a kid. Like, can you imagine being 11 in a pandemic?
Yeah, very weird. Very random times.
Especially, I'm a year 6 teacher, so we were teaching you know, in that last term, we always work on like transition and how do you feel about going to secondary school and spending a lot of time like doing PSHE and stuff like that. And they missed all of that. They missed seeing their friends off to secondary school. They've all gone to different schools now. Some of them have moved really far away. And
a lot to deal with.
It's a lot. Like, and I really, really feel for them. And you know, that's what keeps me going now. Knowing that the kids that are in my care, them coming back to school is probably their only comfort right now.
Good advice, the only advice, yeah.
And seeing their friends, and you know, so it's a weird time to be a teacher, it really is. But it's also a really nice one because kids have really realised how much they appreciate school, and they appreciate their teachers, and parents realise it's not easy.
Taking care of these bloody kids. Yeah, let's touch on the UK educational system. I mean, I went through a little bit of a phase as well as I was growing up, especially at uni, and just thinking about the whole educational system, but then connecting it to a 9 to 5. It's more or less a little bit of a factory. Put people into school, get them to university, get them to do a 9 to 5 job. So being in the educational system now, what do you think is wrong with it? We can talk about race and education, a lack of it in history lessons. Like, I only remember hearing Henry VIII and I don't know, white people. Like, all seriousness aside, like have you seen the film Hidden Figures?
Yes.
So like, no one's ever learned about that, but they're talking to us about how we got to space, but they don't say about the black women that helped them.
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing space launches now. I mean, you look at the NASA space shuttle and there's no black people there, so it's just like, yeah. I mean, go on.
Wow. What's wrong with the education system? We could be here all day, honestly. There's lots of things, but I think, to be very honest, to put it like simply, what has happened is the Conservative government created what they wanted the education system to be like, but it is so outdated. So to give you an example, kids have to learn about Roman numerals in primary school. They have to know all the Roman numerals and be able to write numbers as Roman numerals, right? But like, let's think about that. When do you ever need Roman numerals? And if you did, right? So if you saw, something on the TV that said like Henry VIII or whatever, and you didn't know how to read it, okay, go and use a book. You don't need to know that fact to be able to function in life. But because the Conservative Party have a very sort of like closed agenda with the type of person that they want to come out of the education system and the type of sort of like cultural capital that they want that child to have, they have set things up so that it's very old-fashioned.
No, you hit the nail on the head then about what kind of person they want coming out of the education. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so that's why you find people from low-income backgrounds are very disadvantaged in the system because it wasn't made for them. It was made for people who go skiing in February, like go on holidays in different places in the year. They've read a copious amount of books at home. That would really allow that child to flourish in our system, but it doesn't work for the rest of them because they just don't have the sort of prerequisites that the Conservative Party want us to have. Anyway, it's just very outdated and it's very Eurocentric, which doesn't match the needs of the students in this country. We have so many kids from so many different backgrounds, and that's up and down the country. That's not just in London.
I think it even gets worse outside London because London's pretty cultural, very diverse.
Yeah.
And if there's a lack of education in the schools here, I wonder what it's like up north. Like those places are just white. You rarely find like, here we've got black, white, brown, like everything.
Literally.
So it's just.
And so you find that children who are coming out of the education system in like Yorkshire, they're coming to London and they're like, whoa, like who are these aliens?
Literally.
And you know, obviously, you don't want that to be like that. You want this country is diverse, and actually, people of color have helped build this country.
Exactly.
Why would
the
we
cars
not?
you're driving, the food you're eating, like everything is everything else you are. So.
Actually. So
if you were, let's say, if you were the Minister of Education for the UK tomorrow, you're just right. One day you could implement one thing into the country. I know it's one thing.
Oh my god.
One thing, but it could spiral into other little things. But today, Michaela, the new Minister of Health of the UK, or London, or whatever,
the curriculum.
The whole curriculum.
Completely rewrite the curriculum. I would just say, do you know what? Scrap everything you want kids to learn. Let's really look at what is going to help, what skills and what knowledge
and what
do we
three
need
things
to
would you
give them.
choose? And I'm throwing you right in the deep end there. The first three things that come to mind, maybe.
Okay, they need to be able to read. If you're not literate, you're not going to succeed in anything you do. Every job you do, you need to be literate for. So I would say I would have like a scheme of reading, which would be around like different stories from different cultures, traditional tales from this country, because I do think that's important for you to understand our cultural heritage. So that's one thing. Oh my god. Second one, it would have to be something with technology. It would have to be a technology focus. Like, there's not enough of that in the current curriculum to support the new generation. Exactly. Oh my god.
One more.
Oh my god.
So reading, technology.
I don't know.
Just two then. Those are the first two to come.
Those are probably. Oh my god, that's so hard. I would probably do something like well-being, because I think the kids of like these new generations, they're gonna face a lot of weird challenges that we probably didn't have. Like, you know, everyone talks about this, but social media. And like, you know, I don't know if you've been seeing this stuff recently about filters and how like so many young people
like face filters usually.
So many young people are now going to surgeons asking them
to look
like that filter. And like, you know, this is a real problem. So I'd probably do some sort of like well-being,
self-love
work. Like understanding like how to support your mental health and like all of that as well.
You see, even the social media thing as well, like I think once again, it all goes back to parents. If the parents are right and they're feeding the right information to their children and teaching them right, a child can use social media but be aware of it. It's only when the parents lack the knowledge of how dangerous social media can be. Because, as you said, kids will look at it. Like my younger sister, the 11-year-old one, loses Snapchat off Instagram. So you don't, what are you using this for? You don't need any of this. Like, it's just going to warp your perception of life so badly, and like you're just going to think.
But like,
what life is.
You can imagine being a child at that
everyone else is doing it.
Everyone else is doing it, and like. The kids who don't are literally
outcasted.
And like as a teacher, I see it. I'm in a year 6 classroom. The kids are 10, 11 years old. The ones who don't have phones and don't have social media,
you can see which ones.
They're like in their own little bubble, and so it's almost like, I don't know, if I had a kid, I guess I would probably take the approach of.
That was actually one of my questions. So
I'd have to give it to you, but I just have to very closely monitor it. There would have to be some crazy restrictions on there.
But then you think sometimes when you suppress a child so much, when you suppress a child so much, they can just go and do the complete opposite.
Yeah, that's why for me, I would still allow you to have it, like have Snapchat and stuff, but I'm gonna turn the location thing off so no one knows where you live. For example.
And you just tell them like, look, why do you want someone to know? You know what I mean? Like, forget what I'm saying.
You see what I mean? It's like but that conversation. Why do parents shy away from that? Why do they not just say, this is why I don't want you to have your location on, because people are going to find where you live.
You and like say bad things to you.
It's just, but you have to talk to your kids about that.
Well, then that comes to an educated parent as well. Anyone can be a parent, but it takes.
I'm one of those advocates for like people need parenting training before they become parents.
I mean, I know it's not easy. I'm not a parent. I've never been a parent yet, but like, I know all parents do try. I know parents are perfect, 100%. But like, I think parents need to be reviewed as well. You need to see. They need to review themselves sometimes as well.
You know, it's quite basic things where parents parents will ask you as a teacher, how do you get the children to listen to you? Like, how do you get them to do this and do that? And it's like, okay, but all these things that we are taught as teachers, not to say that like we want our parents to be teachers, but very simple things of like, when you're talking to a child, going to their level and talking to them at a calm voice, like it's strategies like that that parents would benefit from, and as well about social media and what are the types of things that they can do to protect their child and things like that. And like, even so the government just introduced sex education it's already been mandatory, but what they're calling health and relationship education is going to start from reception.
And what are your thoughts on that?
It's going to start, I think it's so important because so many kids are not exposed to those conversations at home, and if they're going to be seeing that out,
it's better
they need to know. Like, for example, part of it covers the fact that some children will not feel comfortable in their assigned gender, and it will be part of it. It's like different people come from different types of family homes. So some people come from like single parent homes, some people come from same-sex parent homes, like, and I think like having that exposure will only help children to be more compassionate. But yeah, some parents have been
a bit against it.
Very against it.
It hasn't really fallen on you though, because you're not the one that's implemented it. But have you felt the wrath of like?
Yeah, because obviously they think it's like a personal thing. They're like, you need to not teach my kid about that or whatever, or they'll just conveniently make sure that their child is absent for that day. And you're just like,
alright.
What's going on here?
Where is he today? I wonder why. What are we teaching at 3 o'clock?
Exactly. But yeah, so that's essentially what I think about the education system. I just think it's very outdated, and yeah, we need to make it more relevant for the students that we're teaching.
I think education is a lifelong thing. That's another perception of what people's perception of school is. They think that you're just doing it up until uni, then you're done with education for the rest of your life. I think that should be taught from reception, that this is just the formalities in the moment. You go to primary school, secondary school, uni, then after you can do what you want. But education is a lifelong skill that you need to implement.
Absolutely.
You should always be educating yourself as you're an advocate of person of reading books. And you should be, because if you just keep closed off to like one form of knowledge, you're going to become outdated yourself and you're just not going to be with the time. So I think it's important to just actually integrate that.
And like, I can see how some kids get disillusioned, like after spending however long in schools where they didn't have teachers that believed in them or whatever. I can see why they would feel like, do you know what, I don't want to read books anymore. Like, you've forced me to read books.
It's been such a horrible experience,
Like, I don't want to do that.
Because like when the older I get, like I think about certain subjects, I'm like, if I went into that classroom 10 years ago, 20 years ago with this passion, I would have got A stars and everything, like physics and history, especially history. Like, I love history now, like, looking back on things back in the day and like how things happened, and it's beautiful. But back in the day, it was just Henry VIII. That's honestly all I can remember. As sad as that sounds, like Hitler and Henry VIII. And I know that's important because Hitler were in the UK, the World War II. I get all those things, but there's a lot of other things that are happening around the world. And someone might say, oh, if you go to a different country, they'll teach you about their education. Well, it should be a global thing. We live on the globe, so just teach us about global politics. Why do you have to wait to uni to choose to do something?
Having like some more, I think sometimes like schools, they don't think about like, what are the students interested in? Like,
they don't care that, as you were saying, like the Conservative Party, they're just trying to create people that they want to come out of it. They
learn that Hitler was a monster. Stop.
That's it.
As long as you can say that in a history exam, A.
But there's a lot more to it.
It's very messed up. And so much that I would want to learn about, like,
there's a lot of history out there, man. Like, there's the Mayans, or I don't know, like Aztec. There's a lot of interesting stuff. I know we learn about the Egyptians, but I don't know, it's just pyramids. That's all I remember. But as a kid as well, it's an interesting one. And I think someone can counter argue and say, oh, if you really were interested in it, you could have done it in your spare time or something, which I completely get. But I think they need to create that excitement in a kid.
Where do you start? How would you know what ancient civilizations you're interested in if you've only been exposed to the Egyptians? Even if they just pointed you in that direction.
Oh, by the way, there's some more information.
Because I sometimes have kids in my class who will say to me, oh, like, miss, like, I'm from Turkey, like, I want to know about
the Ottoman Empire.
And I'm like, oh, really? Here's this book. And, but because
I think it's important for kids to know like where they come from as well. Like, I've tried to educate myself on being Iranian, and because I know the Persian Empire was massive back in the day, and I feel like I don't know enough about it. And I don't expect schools to teach that. Like, you shouldn't expect anything from anyone essentially, but like, yeah, you get that kind of information from your parents. Like, African parents will teach their kids about their country, Middle Eastern. Yeah. But yeah, I think knowing about where you come from, that kid asking about Turkey, like, great, here you go. I can tell you so much. You can love yourself even more and love your people.
And so, we try and like weave that in wherever possible, but because of the constraints of the curriculum, there's just not enough time. You know, they want us to teach about all of these things. I'm just like, this is just not necessary. But it's what it is, man. We just have to do it and get by.
What was I going to say? Was something else? What's been some of your most turbulent times as a teacher? What's some of the biggest challenges you faced, or really frustrating times, or pivotal moments? If you've had any, you might have not. You might have had a kind of a smooth ride so far.
I've had one that is straight in my mind. So there's been a few. There's been like, you know, some times where there's been some safeguarding issues with kids in my class, for example, and so I know that they're really going through it and it's really hard to support them. But honestly, like, the most challenging year for me, I think, was 2 years ago. I just became a year 6 teacher. So I'd only been teaching for a year and a half.
And what years were you teaching before?
I had been teaching year 4.
Okay.
So I'd only been teaching, I'd only been teaching 1 year, because this is my 3rd year in year 6. So I was put in year 6 and I was terrified because year 6 is like head of primary school. So you have the SATs, right? And SATs basically like show how well your school is performing in the whole borough. And I just remember having this one child who, like, he made it difficult for me. Like, he made it difficult. Every lesson was just head in his hands, like, was just not motivated whatsoever. Would speak to his mum. His mum was like, I can't motivate him at home. All he cares about is YouTube. I was like, do you know what? This kid, you're my mission this year. And over time, I realized that actually there was just so many barriers for him for learning, and it really took lots of conversations with him and like spending time with his family, like his mum, to understand that actually the reason why he was so demotivated is half the time he couldn't understand what was going on in the classroom. He just didn't understand the language. So what I started doing was, before the lesson that we would have, particularly on reading, before a reading lesson, like a couple of days before, I would give him the text and we would read it together, and I would talk to him through what's the vocab in it, and like, you know, this is the story. And then all of a sudden, you know, now he's starting to actually pay attention in lessons, and because he can actually access what is going on. And like, that was really, even up to the end, I was literally like banging my head on the wall, like, this kid, is he gonna make it? I don't know. And then I got his results, and he passed with flying colours in all subjects.
That's good. That must have made you feel proud as well, like your kid almost, you've developed.
I was like, what? And, you know, especially when, as a teacher, if you have that one kid that you're like, I want you to get it, and they get it, incredible. It's such an amazing feeling.
And another thing, not opposite to this question, but intertwining with you being the only black teacher in your school, you were saying, So what's parents even like? Because you might get some racist parents or might not be happy with a black person's teaching there.
Do you know what?
Have you ever felt like any type of...
I actually find on the day-to-day, it's not really parents' evening, it's day-to-day interactions with me. So I find that, so I'm in a year group with 2 other teachers who are white, and I don't even think they would know this, but I noticed that the parents will often either talk over me, or they will dismiss what I'm saying and just want to go straight to like a leader, like the head of year or whatever. They basically don't really want to have much interaction with me, to be honest. But also I find that often it's staff in the school. So when I first joined the school, I had this problem where there was another black teacher. He's not there anymore. But we were walking around the school together because he was in the same year group as me, and he was just showing me where something was or something. It was literally like my first week. And one of the people came up to me and said, you know, and said to the man, like, you know, is this your daughter? And I'm looking at her and he's looking at her like, first of all, you can see that I have a school badge on. Secondly, obviously, I've had my induction, I've met all these people the year before, and to just assume that I was his daughter, not another working teacher in the school, I was very upset about that. And yeah, luckily my head teacher was really responsive and was just like, this is unacceptable. So that person ended up having a meeting. But yeah, like it's just those sorts of things that happen a lot. People just associate you with as like, oh, so are you a teacher? Or like, are you a teaching assistant? And I'm like, I'm head of English, bro.
You know. Why are you talking down? Why are you just assuming I'm just something I'm not, like, straight away? Like, if you speak to a white teacher, you're going to be like, you're not going to be like, oh my god, are you the assistant? Or, yeah.
Exactly. So, and yeah, it's just, as I say, it's just those little things like talking over me that I'm just like, oh,
yeah.
Really? Like, you don't have to do that.
It's just generational racism and just brainwashed mentalities,
Yeah.
which sometimes you can't blame the person for. Sometimes they just say things that they don't actually mean, but they're just saying it and they come across in a racist way.
But you know what's funny? Because it's so weird that I have that response from adults, but the response from kids at the fact that I'm their teacher is completely the opposite. So the kids that I've been teaching are predominantly Asian, and I've had a child say to someone else who also works in the school that, oh, I'm so glad that, you know, she's my teacher this year because, you know, I feel like she will really understand me and like she'll be able to relate to like where I'm coming from, my culture. And like that kind of thing literally makes me want to cry because I'm just like, wow, like, yeah, like, wow, you know, just having someone who is not white, you know, I'm not from her, like I'm not Pakistani, do you get what I mean? Yeah. But the fact that she knows that we would have had similar experiences and she's only 10, like, it's mad.
Yeah. How's your kind of school dealt with the whole Black Lives Matter movement? Like, have they approached you? Have they like more because kids have probably been seeing it like something the year 5s and year 6s might have been seeing on social media, so I'm sure there has to be some sort of action taken.
Exactly.
And what has it been?
So as I said, I did like a sort of staff meeting about what Black Lives Matter was and like
you decided to hold it yourself.
I did it myself. And then we have sort of created like a diversity group in the school because there are like some other issues that are coming out, like gendered violence and all of this sort of thing that is really like about sort of really pertinent to my school community. And so we've sort of called it diversity to sort of encompass all of those things. And yeah, so now we're putting things into place for Black History Month. We are looking at our curriculum. We've already made edits to our curriculum this year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, to like just reflect our learners a bit more.
Do you have any black students in your class?
Not that many. No, I don't have any in mine.
Okay.
There's
in the school in general?
One in the year group, I think. And there's like a handful throughout the school.
Have you ever looked at maybe going to another school and then going to a school where there is more black kids? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, so definitely. I have thought about that. But I'm actually leaving teaching.
Oh, completely. To focus on?
To focus on my business, and I'm taking over my dad's business as well.
Oh, so. Nice.
So yeah,
that's gonna be hectic
career,
as well.
Change of career, but it is what it is. And you know, sometimes I get comments from like, especially black parents, like, oh, like we need you and all of this stuff. And like, I really encourage like any black teacher to stay in the profession where they can because they're needed. And yeah, but it's just not.
When are you leaving education?
Leaving this year.
Oh wow!
This is my last year. Yep.
So
I'm still going to be like quite sort of involved in the education sector because of my business. I'm just not going to be a teacher anymore.
So just taking care of your dad's business and doing your own thing.
Yeah. Maybe in a few years I'll be back to teach the kids.
Or maybe the Prosperity Project will be within all educational systems in a few years. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
you might not have to go like into
fingers crossed.
So yeah. I mean, maybe to wrap it up a little bit, where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years?
Wow, so as a person, I think, you know, I'm really proud of the progress that we've made, that I've made in this business, and I just want it to grow really. I would love it to be the case where the training sessions I offer are mandatory as part of teacher training. And so that's what I'm going to be hopefully working on with universities. I'm just going to put it out there. That's going to be my goal. And also I'd love to do the work with organisations and globally, not just here. I've already got contacts around the world and I really want to work with them. So that's my goal, but I don't want to let the teaching side down. Like I really don't. I want to stay there wherever I can. I want to help schools. So
of course,
that's my goal.
And for the people out there, what's the name of your Instagram pages, your Twitter pages, anything? Where should they follow?
Wow, I've done this before.
I'll put it all there. But yeah, you got to get it out there. Let them see it because people are gonna want to see it.
I've literally never done this before.
Follow Prosperity Project. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we don't actually have an Instagram. And we
the Black Experiment Project.
So we have the Black Thought Experiment has a Instagram and a Twitter. So that is at Black Thought EXP. The company, the Prosperity Project, has a LinkedIn and it has a Facebook, so you can find us there.
A bit more professional with the LinkedIn. Okay.
Yeah, just because of our target market, really. And our website, which is the most important one, is tprosperityproject.com. And yeah, we've got a mailing list there, so you can subscribe to learn about what we're doing in schools.
Perfect. Well, anything else you might want to discuss yourself? Well, that's
good.
Cover them
I feel like we covered everything.
No, we did. Yeah, we think we've covered it all.
Covered you. Yeah, my life story.
Perfect. Thank you. I know it all now. Well, thanks again for coming down, and hopefully people out there will see the Prosperity Project in their nearest school or in their business.
Fingers crossed.
You never know.
And if you want me to work with your school, just let me know.
Instagram will be in the bio below and all that stuff. So yeah, thank you for coming.
You're welcome.